explorers came through here, it was only approximately 100 years after the Hohokam had disappeared. And yet their buildings, their cities, were already, they were in ruins. Now, if we go back and look, we can see that these, many of their biggest structures are made of substantial building materials, and they're built into the mouth of a cave in the side of a cliff. And yet here we can see that there are signs that these buildings are in ruins. You look at the tops of these buildings and they look like there's been some damage here. Now, the question I had for you today, and I want us to start with this, and then we're going to get into some of the petroglyphs and talk about them. But the question that I had about this: how did the buildings, the Hohokam, just disappear? Around 100 years go by, the Spanish explorers come, they find these magnificent ruins, but they are ruins. As if it looks like there's been a war of some kind. A lot of stones knocked out of place, and some of the villages look like they, suffered some kind of warfare. But there's not anybody out here except some Pima Indians, some O'odham Indians, and they're very friendly to the Spanish. And they tell the Spanish explorers, oh no, those are not our buildings, that's from the people before. But there doesn't seem to be any record of war, except maybe in the petroglyphs. Tell us about that.
If you look at my website there, it's called petroglyphsinthesky.com. You'll see on the front page that there's a panel there, and it depicts what looks like a stick figure person with 4 arms. Now, he's holding this staff. Now, along with this panel, you'll see a regular stick figure man holding a bow and arrow, and he's shooting at something in the sky. Not only is the man with the bow and arrow shooting at something in the sky, but the 4-armed stick figure man with the long magical weapon is also shooting at something in the sky, and it seems to be a flying serpent, if you will, some kind of half man, half snake. You can clearly see it has a head, it has some arms there, but its body is the shape of a serpent. Now, when we study the India legends, we run into the Viyamatis. Now, the legends and the folklores on the Viyamatis say that there was some kind of battle here between, I guess let's call them the forces of good and the forces of evil. And these Viyamatis have, if you look at the India gods, if you notice all the limbs, matter of fact, there was a baby girl born maybe a few years ago, and she had all these limbs attached to her, and the India people thought she was a reincarnated god. And this is because of what had happened in the past of these supernatural gods, if you will, that interacted with mankind. And these people seem to be on the side of the humans, and they went to war with these other type of serpent gods, if you will, and were able to, let's say, put them back to where they belong for and until the time of the end, until their time to come out again. Now, the significance of that is it seems to coexist with the rock art on South Mountain here. It does show what looks like a war that did happen here.
Okay, Jeff, we have to step away for break. We'll be back. We'll pick up with that war when we come back. far as I know, there are only two ways to see through the darkness. One is to use night vision goggles. The other, be a regular listener of The Kevin Smith Show. The Kevin Smith Show, we rule the night. Welcome back. We're talking with Jeff Woolwine. And Jeff, these petroglyphs carved or chipped into the rock by the Hohokam show something that looks like a kind of a supernatural war. And you were telling us about this. You have the figure of, it looks like a man, but he's got multiple arms. He's got like 4 arms. And he's got this special staff. Folks, go over to Jeff's website. You can click his picture on my site, and it'll take you there. And there's a picture of this, and you'll see him. The staff that he's holding has kind of a elongated bulb on one end. And I'll tell you, Jeff, what it looks like. It looks like that weapon on Stargate SG-1 that Tilt carries.
Yeah, doesn't it, though?
That's what it looks like.
Well, you know, some of the Hollywood movies that we see, I mean, you really got a question on where they got these ideas from, and it just seems to match some of these old folklores and legends and things of like the Vietnamese and you know, just legends, if you will. But you know, you gotta question yourself, you know, where did they get the topics? How did they come up with this show? Well, maybe something in our history maybe gave them that idea.
What happened to these what happened to these guys with 4 arms and the special weapons? Where did they go?
It's when we study the India legends on the Vietnamese. Now, after this war took place, these creatures, the good aliens, if you will, these Vietnamese, these people with the 4 arms, they buried their magical weapons in the spots, in holy spots, because they knew eventually that they would have to come back again one day to reuse the weapons for these creatures, in my opinion, that we're dealing with today.
All right, so here's this is the first place, folks. Although I don't have a picture of it, Jeff's got it on his website, and I just didn't have time to get that one loaded. But I've got some more photographs for those of you on our TV channel. But this is the first place where we see something in these rocks that matches something we see in another ancient culture. The first place tonight, where it matches something in another ancient culture around the world. And that is these multi-armed beings with these magical staffs that they can shoot something at these sky serpents. How did the Hohokam know about that? Because what you're talking about in the Indian culture, ancient India, is thousands of years before the Hohokam and thousands of miles away. So I'm saying, is it possible that the Hohokam were seeing the same beings as those ancient people across the world saw before them? It would appear so.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, not only is it, what I find in studying all this, it's the same type of story, same legend, just maybe told just a little bit different. In seeing these creatures, for instance, here's another one, Kevin. You know how we have pyramids all over the world. I mean, it's the same